Guys, sometimes it is not okay to meet your heroes, but what is good to meet is a drink.
Yes.
So what are we all drinking, Justin?
Ooh, I'm rocking some Stella, and I got some nice rye whiskey in my glass, and that's gonna carry me through.
Oh, very good. Pedro.
I think I'm drinking some sort of a bourbon right now, and I've been drinking it for maybe about 16 hours. It's really hard to say at this point, but I'm doing all right. It tastes delicious, and I've been watering it down because health is very important.
Isn't that the amount of time it takes to fly to Japan? You've been drinking bourbon for that amount of time?
Dan, I'm not a doctor. I don't know how long it takes to fly to Japan, but I just know that I'm focusing on my fitness with this beverage. And there's water in here, so I'm killing it.
Very good. Moses, what are you drinking over there?
Well, I have my handy dandy bag of Pabst Blue Ribbon. I also have a shotgun shell full of Soshu.
No glass of gummy bears this week?
No, those got thrown out unserendipitously.
It's my bag.
But you thought those would still be good?
They're gummy bears. They don't go bad.
It was, in fairness, it was, I did find it. And
Those were Smarties, that wrapper.
I apologized already. It was a solo cup with gummy bears at the bottom of it.
There was licorice at the bottom of it.
It's been a little contentious in here for the past hour.
And there was a lot of plastic at the top, and I thought that it was garbage, and I threw it out, and I apologized.
And I do know how long a trip to Japan is. It's 36 gummies.
Wow. You measure time and distance by gummies?
I have a loose grasp of reality, maybe because of the amount of gummies I eat, but that's how I measure time and space.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
There we are.
So, guys, little piece of news been going on the last couple weeks, especially in the month of February.
News.
So I think you guys are more familiar with Neil Gaiman than I am. He's been brought up on multiple, we're still like, not okay, SA charges. So,
Right.
And the interesting thing about Neil Gaiman, I'll just start this off with a quick story.
Please.
So when I was at Rowan, one of our assignments was that you had to go to a speech or a lecture or whatever, and it was hosted by Neil Gaiman. Now,
That's awesome.
That does sound very interesting.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Pedro, you and I had that apartment back in the day, and that was right around that time frame. So I hit the little, conundrum of having to drive all the way to Glassboro from that apartment on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
And I went up to my my instructor, my professor at the time, and said, I'm not going to be able to do this. Is there some way that I can make up this assignment? That's way too far on a day that I'm not already scheduled to go to class. She said it was okay. I go into the office to turn the ticket in because I'm like, I'm not going to use it. Somebody wants to use the ticket.
Sure.
And this young woman was ahead of me and was asking if there were any tickets. And on her way out, the people were pointing she wants a ticket. And I'm like, oh. I was like, here you go.
Hello.
Could you have scalped it?
What's that?
Could you have scalped it?
No.
See that and then take her outside oh, I got a ticket for $10. And
Why does there always got to be something shady? It was a very wholesome story.
all right.
So
just $10, not a blowjob.
Was he speaking at Rowan?
Yeah, he was speaking at Rowan.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And so that was kind of because I'm not a big comic book reader. I read X-Men, Spider-Man when I was a kid, but not much after that. So Neil Gaiman's work is not something that I'm very privy to. But I did hear about this story where he's facing all of these charges.
Yes.
One of them from, I think, a former nanny that they took in, she was homeless or something like that, about 22. And it was kind of one of those situations where I know you guys are more familiar with his work.
Yeah.
And you might be one of those situations you're oh, wow. Do you rethink how you thought of him because of these?
It's funny. If I could jump in first real quick. So Neil Gaiman, for me, he's done a lot of work, obviously, but in particular, his Sandman series, quite extensive, was very important to me, kind of coming out of high school, reading the whole thing. I have it. In fact, I've had it twice. The whole top to bottom compendium. I had it once. I lent it out. It disappeared into the ether. And then a couple years ago, Christina rebought me the whole compendium.
What a peach she is.
She is. Christina's the best.
Shout out.
And the whole compendium, yeah, she's gonna love this shout out. She loves the shout out. But and every book is signed by Neil Gaiman.
Oh, that's pretty dope.
Yeah.
And that's probably going to go up in value, especially now.
Yeah. And it's I love it. And so there's Sandman. American Gods was another one that I really enjoyed.
That was him and Grant Morrison, I think.
I think so, yeah. And like he's done some works that have really like kind of been formative to like the type of media that I like to take in and such like that. And now, because like, obviously he's in the news again, but this has kind of been brewing from like a building type of situation now for a little while now.
Yeah.
It's more to the forefront because comics are cool.
Well, yes.
And now people care.
And it's gotten to the point, so Sandman went to Netflix, and it had its first
I guess that's
first season.
First season.
I guess that's not getting renewed.
The second season's already been filmed.
And that's where a lot of misinformation's been coming out about this, where they canceled it after the second season. From my understanding is they were always going to end it at the second season.
That's what it seems like to me.
And that's what Netflix does. They just cancel shit that's popular for no reason.
And with the way they're doing Sandman, because they're doing Dream's Tale, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. It's going to get
after
lost.
2 seasons. Yeah. But another one of his shows came out, Dead Boys Detective Agency, and that just got straight up canceled after its first season. And that was in the midst of, obviously, less was known then, but it seems like a lot more has come to the surface recently. And it's one of those things. It's like, obviously, this can lean into cancel culture.
Yep.
And for me, it's like, obviously, if everything is true, all the allegations are true, then yeah, he's a giant piece of shit.
Yeah.
But like his art, well, certain pieces or elements of his art were incredibly important to me.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you make that separation between the artist and their art?
But with that, it's also like, look at everything Neil Gaiman's done.
Yeah.
And and I know you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but if anybody was gonna have this allegation, look at the dude and look at his work. Like, I'm not surprised. So it's like kind of a non-entity to me because, like, duh.
I'll say, I'll chime in with 2 points about it.
Sure.
One is that I think that as people become, I think that power corrupts.
Yep.
You know, the old saying is power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. I think that as you become a celebrity, you are much more inclined towards doing things that you wouldn't normally do as a regular person.
100%.
And we're talking about abusing people, etc. Right? So that's like the one thing in terms of like why you would do this type of shit, you know? Because like I would think that I would never engage in that. I'm also not a fucking celebrity where everything is handed to you and then you begin to like look outside of your own box.
Look outside of your box, power dynamics come into play.
Yeah, exactly. I would like to think I would still never do those types of things, but it's not from nowhere that celebrities and people that we know, it's not just that they get caught. It's that they also have everything.
Yeah,
but it's also that height that we put them on.
Yeah,
then they fall from grace so far that it's like, my God.
When you already have everything, then you're going to look for more exotic things, and sometimes those things are things that you and I would look at as being forbidden for good moral reasons.
But to that point, Steven Seagal.
Oh. Okay. Oh wow! Okay,
like, let's do this. I had another point, but I want to actually do yours.
He's been accused of some very keeping a girl in her goddamn basement for I don't know however long.
Shit.
Well, he was granted, everybody knew he was a piece of shit, but then that comes out he had kept a girl in his basement. Well, I don't remember the details to it, but
it was something along.
But we also all forgot about it so goddamn quick, and he wasn't crucified at all.
The news cycle is quick. And people are often very quick to forget things.
But why are we putting Neil? Not to say we shouldn't put Neil Gaiman on the cross for whatever because he may or may not have done. But why aren't other people held to that same standard?
Because nobody respected Steven Seagal in the first place.
Yeah, but more people knew Steven Seagal than they knew Neil Gaiman.
Yeah, but he's not respectable. You just assumed that Steven Seagal was
Yeah, but it's still not a good thing for anybody to fucking do.
I want to make my other point if I may.
Please make your point.
My other point about it would be that, to tie in a little bit more with what you were saying, Justin, is that I've been shocked at times by how poorly I imagined this person's character to be. Some celebrity. some famous person that I viewed in a certain way, right? And then you find something out and you interpret it as truth. So, in the case of Gaiman, I assume that that's true, which sucks.
Yeah.
If you're wrong, that's a different story. But in this case, I'm assuming that's probably accurate.
I assume as well.
And this is obviously unfolded many times over decades, For me, it doesn't change how I view the work. In other words, you could be like the work that I actually really dislike how culturally and individually how we make it this thing that a person's achievements need to be associated with the person that they are. Because you could be the biggest piece of shit in the world and still achieve something. The example that I always give of that, because you know that I'm like an admirer of history, and Adolf Hitler was the very first person.
It's a hard sell.
I know it is.
You should have went Chris
He was the
Benoit.
very first political leader to pass laws that were about animal rights, right? He was obviously the pinnacle of a piece of shit person. We mostly all agree on that.
I would like to say entirely all agree.
I would like to say, he thought Jews were animals, though. So how good
Let's
of
not
an
go down
animal
that.
rights
Yeah,
guy was
let's
he?
not go
It's
down that.
like,
That's dangerous ground there. I don't want to go down that road.
My point is that we're talking about a person who was absolute garbage, right?
Yeah.
We all agree that he was a horrible human being, et cetera, et cetera. But should we ignore what was actually done? In this case, I'm an animal lover, so I love that this was the initiation of laws that were passed to protect animals.
Well, I think you can kind of balance the two.
They're separated things.
The separate, like you can in the extreme case that you just laid out with Hitler.
Yeah.
It's just like, all right, nothing he could have really done undoes all of the fucking evils that he
millions of
did.
murders.
That's kind of my point,
That's-
though. That's kind of my point, though. That's what I'm saying, is that it doesn't need to undo. In other words, he was a horrible human being, but we can also separately appreciate that something good was done for animals.
In this culture, it's really hard to be able to be like to do that
this
with
culture,
that individual.
Yeah.
In this culture, there is no account for nuance. It's bulk fire sale.
Because I think that really,
but during Hitler's time, there was the world was much bigger. Nothing was so under a microscope the way it is now.
Out of your element on this.
Yeah,
one.
I would like to drop the Hitler thing in its entirety if we could.
You're welcome, Dad. My point in that, and in bringing up the extreme, is that it's not to harp on the Hitler thing.
Yeah.
And that's my bad. My point is that we can judge people as who they are and what they did, and then also separate it from the things that we perceive to be of value.
Now, I don't have a problem with that because I do think Michael Jackson accused of all of these things.
Yeah.
And I can still enjoy Thriller.
Great musician.
Yeah. I can still think, he did a lot of awful things, but goddamn, that motherfucker could write a beat.
But see, so then what I would say is let's get back to what we're actually really talking about. You're judging a person and you're judging the thing.
Yes.
They're two different things. A person who is garbage, or whatever you want to describe them as, a good person, a bad person, whatever. Here you have a person, right? That's not the thing that you're talking about. A garbage person can make great music, can make great art, can do all of these things. A great person, very decent human being, can do the opposite. They can fail at making, art and music and so on and so forth.
Can I pose a question that just hit me real quick?
Please.
So, obviously, I can kind of separate these two things. But say Neil Gaiman were to come out with some new material in the future, would this affect you from taking in that new material? Say if he came out with new
I think it would make it harder to take it in because not so many people are not so many venues are going to carry it just because of it.
So that's also an important part of this too. About a part of the story is that I think they're already not like carrying him. They're his publisher, like Dark Horse Comics.
Oh,
has
yeah.
already
Yeah,
dropped them.
yes.
So the potentiality, and this is the you brought up cancel culture before. So he still has his day in court. He's been accused.
Yes,
I think
of
it's also a civil suit. So I don't think there's any kind of criminality.
He's totally guilty.
No, I think it's the same as Jonathan Majors being Kang and then being not Kang because of whatever happened.
Yeah.
Then it was whatever proven that he wasn't wrong.
Yeah.
And now they're kind of bringing him back in to be Kang.
And that's the
And
shame
it's
of-
like a little shitty, but
Yeah.
it's also, I get why they kind of did it, but at the same time, it's
an easier thing in today's culture if you're a big conglomerate corporation, what have you, to just completely cut out the person that's in this shit and then slowly maybe roll them back in. There's a lot of travesties that have been done in the name of cancel culture. Now, I'm not saying this in particular, this is what's happening. He may have done this. He may not have done this. I'm not sticking my neck out for the guy. But there are people in the past who have been falsely accused of things and had their lives completely fucking ruined. One case of that is the Duke lacrosse team that way back like 10 years ago. They were charged with raping this one woman, and she lied about it the whole time. So that's not the crux of the conversation, but it is an important point.
Even beyond that, though, I mean, like, I'll pose this complete hypothetical. Someone's accused of something. Let's just say that they actually did it, right? Factual, so on and so forth. But they're a great artist. Would you deny yourself their art? Would you deny other people their
Well, that's also an important part of that,
Should
too,
they be in
because
jail?
art
Maybe.
is subjective.
art is subjective.
Well,
and
I don't mean that.
Wouldn't that put it in a different perspective, looking at their art,
that's-
even in
I'm saying
That's an
retrospect?
important point by Moses, because since art is subjective, don't you inherently, now that you know this about the artist, immediately graft that onto the art itself?
Because that's what the art is already entailed with, is because of the artist.
So then what you're saying as a response, if I'm understanding right, is that the art that a person creates includes them.
I think
That-
it kind of has to.
It kind of,
Like
to a
for,
degree,
for
it
you to
does.
create
I would
art, it has to.
disagree.
Well, because
I
you
would
don't make
disagree.
art that has nothing to do with you.
I mean, I agree with that, but I would disagree with
So
that.
it would
with
have
that
to come from
thesis.
somewhere, and if you're creating something, and you're the creator, it's going to come from something in you.
I can
Whether you believe
separate-
in it or not, or like maybe it's just how you're raised, or like I mean, maybe you don't believe in like racism, but you were raised in a racist family, so everything you're doing is somehow racist.
Hitler.
Can we please stop?
Sorry, Dan.
But then you got to look at all of everything they've done, and like, is anything there worth doing? Because what they were doing it out of is deplorable, and like it's also a case by case basis. But like, if a person is inherently deplorable, is any of their shit good?
I mean, I agree with the idea that, of course, all art is subjective. It's entirely based off of how you personally feel about it. It's very personal.
But a lot of that is swayed by what you know of who created it.
Well, I guess it also depends on the person
always,
too. If you do or do not attach that baggage to the
I've
art.
looked at beautiful art that I had no idea who painted it or drew it or wherever the case.
I think the most important part of this is the question that you posed, Justin, which was the new art. I can very easily listen to Beat It and not think of Michael Jackson potentially being, I can't say that word on YouTube. I can separate that because I've had
the problem with my Hitler thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of words can't say on YouTube.
Sorry, Dan.
One of them is Hitler.
Sorry, Dan.
But I can, since I have that past knowledge with this music, particularly like Beat It, freaking
Pretty much anything Michael
Thriller,
Jackson's done.
and
For
you
the
can
most part.
you can listen to that and be like, I don't associate with that. But then if you listen to like if something new came out, post that, you'd be like, okay, buddy, what do we got going on here? And also if it's like a little like on the nose kind of thing.
But with
Sure.
Michael Jackson in specific, when all those allegations came out, they would talk to people in the streets and like, oh, are you gonna stop listening to Michael Jackson now because of these allegations? And most of them were like, no.
No, yeah.
Like, no, I'm still got, like, because I love the music.
Well, that might be a different thing
Like,
entirely,
it might
too.
be a different, like, because he's kind of a super icon.
Yeah.
Then,
Well, also, he was like the last of a kind. Like maybe Taylor Swift right now is the only thing that even approaches what Michael Jackson was in the 90s.
I'd like to go in a different direction
yeah.
with it then.
Go ahead.
Sure.
What I would say then is, obviously, we hear about these high-profile cases where
Yes.
somebody,
Yeah.
in the same way as I went for this extreme, the media is also latched onto various extremes.
Absolutely.
Where the juice is,
It's also why we don't hear about Neil Gaiman anymore at all, like any of it. Like,
So
it's not there.
I would also say it's like, and I don't want to like conflate real things that people do wrong with, bullshit that we all regularly do. But I think that when we're talking about, celebrities or people whose names we know, when we're viewing that, or is any of us living in some sort of illusion where they're not regular people who fuck up all the time and do stupid
I
things?
think a lot of people.
I think
Yeah,
that's,
that's the
the
illusion
only
of it.
way people live.
But that's
is
also-
that they
so
are.
then would we judge them differently based on that? Or do you just need to hear from the media?
But also at the same time, under that, if you found out I did something complete, like into the scope of this, you'd be
I
like,
always got you
I don't,
back down.
I don't think I want to hang
They're
out with Dan
never
anymore.
gonna know. They're never gonna know about those cats. We're taking care of
Well, I mean, like none of you have any of these allegations, do I know? And I don't really want to hang out with you.
We can tell. Moses.
But I think the point that Moses was making about like Michael Jackson in the 90s as well is that was kind of more of like a hero worship. So it didn't matter what they could potentially
It
do.
didn't, but it
That's kinda
did,
what I mean,
and it
though,
was a
too.
weird thing, like where Neil Gaiman is kind of a niche,
Yeah.
kind of following. Where Michael Jackson is
Well,
like
definitely Michael Jackson,
everybody,
absolutely.
everybody knows who the fuck Michael Jackson is.
Yeah.
Not everybody knows who the fuck Neil Gaiman is.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different in at least that respect of ideology, where you're like, oh, Michael Jackson, and then Neil Gaiman. Like,
I mean, Neil Gaiman is only he's
Come
not
up-
full
yeah.
bore into like, but like
Sandman,
did
the
very
Netflix
well
thing
on
is
Netflix.
kind of the thing that really shot him into the
and even
forefront.
before that, to a degree, American Gods. Like
That was canceled quick too, though. I think there was like
ran
what,
a
two
couple
seasons.
I think. Yeah, 2 seasons, maybe 3. I can't remember distinctly, but as opposed to everything else,
And that was kind of Grant Morrison. He's a long-winded guy.
Oh my god.
it's
That book Pat gave me that he wrote. God damn, it's long.
just
I was shocked.
just mumble though.
My point would just be very simply that the way in which we judge people is so steeped in how we perceive them within our societal structure. And I think that that's unfair in the sense of that, like, I do want if somebody's fucking doing something horrible, they're raping people, they're diddling kids, they're doing what they're doing, of course I want them to be prosecuted and have to basically not be
Pay
able
their
to do that
due,
anymore.
yeah.
That-
Like,
that's right. That's
get their penance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Everybody who like we associate with would have that sentiment about it, right? But we put such a fucking microscope on people who are celebrities in this way.
Yeah, public facing people.
Yeah.
Exactly. And this is a thing that really skews it so much, where it's like, would you still enjoy their music? Would you still enjoy their writing, and so on and so forth? And I think that I think that's a real problem for any human being. And I've had this personal, like, where I'm like thinking the same thing, like Michael Jackson. I got my questions.
Yeah.
I don't have I'm not rigid the way that some people are, but I've got my questions. And the bottom line is that his music is great. His music
Yeah.
is
Yes.
great.
You can't-
I love his music, period. Do I love him as a person? Well, that's to be decided. I don't know, because I don't know what he was doing.
Yeah.
You can love one thing, and that's why I brought up the extreme example of the example that I brought up. It's that you
Attaboy.
can like something about somebody and say that they're achieving in this particular realm, but that they're failing in everything else.
Yeah.
But
And we do that as individuals. We do that with our friends. And I think that it's so shameful that we don't do that more universally when we apply to other people.
I think
the bottom
that's-
line is that, I look around at you guys and it's like, you guys succeed. You guys are my dear friends. You succeed at very specific things. And there's other times I'm like, oh, fuck that up.
Well, that's why I think it was interesting what Justin was saying. Like, if he puts out something new,
No,
should I just completely avoid it? Where like we're talking about Michael Jackson and Hitler, and
He ain't
like
releasing anything new.
neither one of them are doing anything new. So it's like kind of a sway. Like Neil Gaiman is still alive, so there is a potential for him to put out new material where the rest of these,
And this is
where Michael Jackson is not alive, and
right
he
now.
won't.
It's
And the
the
other one is-
point of
Well, he didn't.
this is
put
all
material.
alleged at the moment. Like,
Yeah,
he
and it
hasn't
is
had
also
his
alleged.
day in court. Like, and it's that's. I know people in general could be mad at me for even just saying that.
Yeah.
But that's.
But like, I try to force myself to realize there's more nuance than just black and white.
The truth
That's
is
why-
usually in the middle.
Yeah.
That's why I like bringing up Jonathan Majors, because that was a newer thing. He got kicked out of Marvel.
Marvel, yeah.
For I forget exactly what it was, but he was allegedly beating his
I think it was a
girlfriend
domestic
or
or
something,
something
some
with
kind
his
of
girlfriend,
domestic
yeah.
abuse.
Yeah.
And that turned out to
Did she deserve it?
it turned out not to be true.
Edit that out then.
Oh, we don't do that anymore.
It turned
I can
out
only
not
do
to
so
be
much.
true.
Listen, if
Oh no, this is love.
if we're editing stuff out, then I want another drink.
And now, like, then they said, Robert Downey Jr. is now going to be Doctor Doom, even though he's just Iron Man. It's like, all right, weird, but whatever. And now they're like, oh, no, Jonathan Majors, you're cleared? Okay. Hey, buddy, where were I? Like, oh, I'm sorry, I left you outside. I didn't mean to. I know it was cold, but let me bring you back in. I just didn't realize you were outside.
There's a lot of cases like that where we
Yeah.
just are in such a rush. And it's not even just corporations, it's our culture, it's Western culture,
Yes.
where we just jump, you were accused, and therefore you're
Yeah.
automatically guilty. Something that happened
It's no longer proven innocent until proven guilty.
it's guilty
It's
until
guilty
proven
until
innocent.
proven innocent.
And
that's just because of a court of public opinion.
Yeah.
And that weighs
And then- and
more heavily than
corporations are so-
actual laws, because
When-
even when laws
yeah.
get, like, somebody gets accused and guilty, what happens? Too much.
I mean, this is a totally different conversation.
Yeah.
But the
Oh,
bottom,
absolutely.
the
Yeah,
bottom
absolutely.
line is
Yeah.
that, yes, in this culture, and I personally do the same thing. When a woman accuses a man, you side with the woman.
Yeah.
You know, it's and she could be a liar.
Yeah.
You don't
And-
know.
and, you know-
but I do the exact same thing.
Men lie, women lie,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So you got-
Everybody
so
lies.
if you're not
but
a
that's
part,
her standard.
Yeah.
That's her
Humans
jumping
are
off.
terrible.
yeah,
Get rid of them.
yeah.
All of them.
If I were about cats.
Yeah, fuck yeah. More cats, less people.
More cats, less people. All right, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
I'm on board. We don't agree often.
And here we are.
And here we are.
And I pose that question because, like, I really don't know.
Yeah.
Like, there's all this going on and stuff like that. Like, there are people that absolutely have gone out and said, you know, he's persona non grata, his work no longer exists to me, all that stuff like
Well, the
that.
bottom line is that.
And how do
when
you judge his past work?
When you,
Right.
Like, you're like now, like, because granted, Sandman is a kind of weird.
Well, yes, it's
Thing.
weird. Yeah,
I think it's
absolutely.
Oh no, it's great, but it is a weird thing that it's not for everyone.
And just to be
But-
honest, like, even still for me, like, I hold his
Like-
work in such high regard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Even with all this.
it's well written.
people's work, what they do, you know, in other words, like your judgment of a human being should be, in my opinion, separated from whatever it is that you took of value from them. You could meet the biggest piece of shit on the planet, and they could invent the wheel. You know, should you not employ
the
a
wheel?
wheel because you hate that person? It's
Also, at the same time, now I don't want to give cancel culture too much credit, but I'll give the devil his due.
Sure.
If you know this person for a fact is a piece of shit, kidnapped his wife, caved in her trachea, do you go to his bar? Do you do that?
Are you asking me?
It depends on the
Asking
deal.
anyone.
What's the happy hour looking like?
Do you have inside information?
Because, like, I no, I don't want to support that business, but I'm also poor and I am an alcoholic. So
And I have been to this bar.
Yes.
it was his bar.
So, is somebody going to
no,
into more of the story?
Good night, everybody.
And we don't have to. They already have new owners now. I believe
Yes,
now.
as
Anyway.
far as I understand,
So
yeah.
I just the whole point of me bringing that aspect of that.
Oh, is this a real bar?
This is a real
This
bar.
is a real bar.
Can I? All right.
You
I'll
want
describe
to?
Masons?
Okay. Yes,
Yeah.
you can describe.
Oh, it's okay.
It's Masons.
Yeah.
So the owner of this, I don't know how to go. The owner of this bar, the name of it is Masons, and he basically is like a horribly abusive person.
Should we be putting that on blast, or doesn't matter? I guess it doesn't matter.
I'm in favor of putting it on
All right.
blast. Yeah, fuck
Go ahead.
that guy. So he owns this bar. He bought it like a couple of years ago. And like I can tell you about like his general business policy with his bartenders. If you're a bartender there, you are not allowed to work at another bar. And if he finds out that you are, and of course all bartenders work at multiple bars because you gotta eat.
Yep.
He will berate you in front of everyone to belittle you and drag you down.
I feel like that would help their tips, but I like it. They
He's
shouldn't.
just a-
They shouldn't put up with that.
He's
But
a
like,
piece of garbage person. But then it goes further.
I would tip higher if
And
somebody did that
but
to the
as
bartender.
far as I know, the place has changed hands.
Yeah.
since.
Yeah, okay.
Just recently.
So the most recent thing that's happened as far as that particular owner is that he was locked up because he kidnapped his ex-wife.
I was an ex-wife at the time.
Ex-wife.
Okay.
Yeah, they were like together now.
They're remarried now.
Those things. So he kidnapped her. They were like doing their thing, but like he went and got her because you can do that when a woman is property, and he brought her to a basement and then proceeded to torture her.
She wasn't into it.
No, no, she was
I've dated a couple girls.
not. Listen, we all been around the block, but no, she was
I just
not.
want to be clear.
Moses,
This
there's
was-
cameras now.
This was
There
not.
weren't then.
This was. This was not consensual.
No, there weren't.
Right.
cameras.
And that's like a thing that he fucking did. And so many people have said to me, he did that, but it's a great bar.
Is it though?
I don't agree that
I
it's a
don't-
great bar. $9 Hendricks and clubs are alluring.
I
But-
love that you're fixated on what you got out of the bar and not the point that I was making, which is that we shouldn't be judging the thing based off of how shitty the person is.
That's what
well,
exactly
and he's
what
not.
I'm doing.
He's just judging
I'm
it based on the prices.
Yeah, $9 Hendricks and clubs. Where else are you getting that?
All right, I agree. I, too, am something of an alcoholic.
He's absolutely right.
No, like I mean, if I was knowing that, I probably wouldn't frequent that place at all. And
I went
would
back
tell.
there for the lulls, if we're being honest. Yeah.
I don't know how to approach that.
Yeah. I just wanted to see him scream at somebody.
And like, I personally have never been there, and like from what I know, you guys weren't there a whole lot.
No.
Like a couple times maybe, but I barely knew it existed up until a couple months
No,
ago.
it was that Wawa that wasn't a Wawa anymore, and I was just like, oh, I guess that is a bar, isn't it?
always
And then
just-
I drive by.
It always
and go
struck
to
me as a
Stonefire.
bar that, like, if you went there, it was just like immediately like. Remember that scene for The Simpsons? Homer goes to that new bar and it's literally and it's dark, and then he's just like, "Can I get a beer?" He's like, "Can I have a clean glass?" "Here you go, Your Majesty." That's what that bar always struck me as from the outside, and then once I went inside, I'm like, "Oh no, this place is actually very clean."
It's
That's
hard
weird.
to make a Wawa a bar.
Yeah.
And
I
yeah,
think
you're right.
that's probably going to be the beginning of my biography.
Interesting.
I did a lot of drinking at Wawa's.
I would not doubt that. I would not doubt that at all.
Not that Wawa, though.
But the point that I was making using that as an example is, you know the person's a piece of shit. 100%. Know they're a piece of shit. Do you give them your money? Knowing
Yeah.
that because of $9 Hendricks and clubs. Do you do that? Or do you do like, maybe I'll spend the $11 at the other bar?
So what I would say about that is, and I'll bring it full circle in this one. And this is my genuine opinion. I have no problem with somebody giving their money to somebody that they know is a piece of shit, but own it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
If I go and if I frequent this place that we're talking about,
Doesn't
Macy's,
make it
right,
better, though.
then I will own that. That I'm supporting somebody who's a piece of garbage, and I try and do that whatever decisions I make.
Yeah.
I think that's the only way that you have any righteousness in this world. Because if you're just trying to like sit here and say that you're like, in some way better than other people, making better decisions, that you have some sort of a higher moral code, you're a liar.
Yeah.
Because you don't. You really don't.
No, I mean, we're all hypocrites.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Own your hypocrisy. That's the way that I try to approach it, where it's just like, I know that I'm making these mistakes and I'll own them. And that's what it is, So I think that in that regard, when I go and I buy a drink from a man who's beating his wife to death for no reason at all, I feel bad about it, but I also appreciate it.
Why are you still buying drinks from him when he doesn't own the bar anymore?
I don't know. It's a complicated situation. It's a complicated situation.
All right. We'll get into that in another podcast.
We used to go to that breakfast place where something.
Oh,
Maybe I don't know.
I don't know. I don't even remember the name of it. No, the one by I don't know. I can't say it without saying it.
Shays.
Shays.
Oh.
Like it's not called that anymore, but
But I mean that was
Well,
all.
that
We
emerged.
didn't know that going in. That was all.
we
retro.
didn't know that going
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
No. And honestly, and it didn't change anything for me. This is, for the listeners. Apparently, a man killed his wife. In a brutal way, and we don't really know. Nobody knows.
Nope.
It was allegedly a stair incident, right? Allegedly a stair
like
incident.
they were fighting and they were drunk, and he pushed her down the
So
stairs.
it might have been somewhat accidental, but it seems like it's not.
We don't know.
We don't know. We literally don't know.
We got to put all aspects
But
out.
my point about it is that I did go through my mind with that.
Yeah.
I was like, did this man that I know, did he murder his wife? Because that's fucked up if he did.
Especially for how friendly he was.
Well, you never know. And then I thought about it a lot, and I was like, I really want to eat breakfast. And like, I can look past this until you show me proof. I need to know that he killed her, But I think that that's like the mental gymnastics that we all do to a degree.
Yeah.
But I think that really what we should do is just be honest about it.
Yeah, see,
Like,
and-
you don't need to sit up on a fucking high horse and be like, I know everybody who's innocent and guilty and blah,
Us
blah, blah.
not
'Cause you
eating
don't.
those pancakes, we're not bringing her back.
Jesus Christ, Nicole.
They were good pancakes.
They make them good there.
Yeah, they make everything.
They still
Gotta
make
get
them good there.
Benedict's.
They're not the same. It's not the same order, but they're
Shout out to the widow. Sorry, Jen.
Wow.
So, on a similar vein, but switching gears a little bit.
Sure.
I figured we could talk about if you guys have any examples of people, like celebrities, people in general that you might have had like a good amount of admiration for, respect for, but over time they have degraded it by their actions or their behavior or their own hypocrisy. I can lead us off if you guys want to.
Go ahead.
Unless you want
Because
to.
I have a few. Like it's a little different for me because I never cared too much about them, but I did get I knew of them
As
and
he
got to meet them.
unfurls a scroll.
Yeah, let me get this out.
Yeah. So real quick, mine. That's a slugger. That's not a scroll.
Line them up.
Those are expensive. Don't you dare. So
People are cheap. I could hit them all.
okay.
Dan, please.
Moving forward. So I used to be a big fan of Jesse Ventura. I liked his work as a commentator in the WWF, but also when he became governor of Minnesota, that was actually kind of my political awakening because I was just like, oh, wow, Jesse Ventura became mayor. I mean, excuse me, he was mayor of our
Mayor,
town in
yes.
Minnesota, but
Yeah.
after that became
yeah,
governor of
governor.
Minnesota. And I actually was so on board. I bought 3 of his goddamn books. I Ain't Got Time to Bleed, Don't Start the Revolution Without Me, and Do I Stand Alone?
Dan's next album is called Regrets.
Well, it can't be because that was his 4th book.
Well, he wrote a marijuana manifesto or something like that, but we can get into... We'll
We'll do that on the wrestling one.
Yeah, but like, so what he made a big claim, like after he was done being governor of Minnesota, is that he was the outsider. They didn't like him. They got Hillary Clinton to say this about him, this, that, and the other thing. And then he started doing they got canceled from MSNBC for opposing the war in Iraq. And then he did a conspiracy theory show.
Yes.
With all sorts of fucking things that have haunted me to this day. Like Denver Airport is incredibly creepy. And it's
That is what, like, I've always known Jesse Ventura,
Yeah.
like, from wrestling.
Yeah.
That is what really made it click in my head, like, because he was already past his
Prime.
gubernatorial
Yeah,
and
yeah.
all that shit. And then it was that, and I'm like, huh. and like, I was already stupid fucking high on, like, LSD and weed, like, kind of regularly. And I was just like, what?
Yeah.
Like, why do you almost sound like Joe Rogan?
Yeah?
He's in there.
Listen, Joe Rogan.
Joe
Rogan just knows when to take it back.
Joe Rogan actually talk fast. Jesse Ventura's like, "Are you telling me that there are aliens underneath Denver Airport?" Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Oh yeah, just Ventura.
I can't do a really good
No.
impression of him.
fine.
There's
Your
a lot
Obama
of
is great,
yeah.
so I'm not gonna knock it.
That's fair. Not part of this, but all right, he has got a good Obama.
So his whole shtick was question more.
Yeah.
If the government when the government lies, the truth is a traitor. And then literally during COVID, when so many people betrayed me, he was like, "You ought to be getting the vaccine. You better wear a mask." And I'm like, "I'm sorry."
That's not who I'm expecting it from.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Aren't you supposed to be the guy who questions government regardless of party? Your whole thing was calling Democrats Democrips and Republicans Republicans.
Yes, it's a hard one to say.
Not when the predator is after you, though.
But like, it's
think he's
that.
a predator
And also,
now.
by the way, don't want to get too much into this because I don't want to get banned.
Mm-hmm.
He did an
getting yelled at for
episode
Hitler.
about using vaccinations as a mass culling on the people.
Right.
And so for him to be like, "You should get the shot, brother," I'm like, "Are you in the Illuminati?"
I'm gonna be honest. It wasn't on my bingo card.
Yeah.
He talked a lot about that with the Vietnam War and
Yeah.
those inoculations at the time, like
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, they're being programmed," and now all of a sudden, no program.
Yeah, that difference in messaging that he did, that's what struck me as,
He is
you're a
he's a
shill.
politician.
Let me paraphrase that. I'll bring it way back. You realize that he was a liar.
yeah.
That's what. That's
Yeah.
it. You realize that he was a liar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like he was using the message that spoke to me, which is pretty libertarian, anti-government. Both parties are pieces of shit. Something that I've believed in for, I guess all of my life. And then I'm like, "Oh, wait, you're an asshole." I think I might be on Chris Kyle's side now.
Welcome to libertarianism, by the way.
So that was it for me.
Yeah,
Jesse
yeah.
Ventura, now I look at him. He came back. We'll probably cover this on a wrestling podcast at one point. He did Saturday night's main event.
did
He's
he?
getting cheered.
I
And I'm
missed
like,
it, but-
he sounds like Joe Biden. He sounds like he doesn't know where he is.
Well, he's also that old now,
Yeah.
and like he was kind of that, like, and he's also taken more bumps than Joe Biden.
Has he?
I have to imagine just on the set of Predator. Like aside from his wrestling career, he's
None of my
got.
business.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Like how many times has Joe Biden been suplexed? At least, like even Trump, he's been stone
Oh,
cold.
you meant that kind of bump.
Yeah. I don't know what we're talking
I
about.
also read that wrong. I way read that wrong.
What are you talking about?
I was on a different page. That's my bad. Sorry.
Well, of course he's been doing that. He was a wrestler.
I thought we were
That was
taking
my
a ski trip together.
Oh, like, oh my God.
that was my story. I open up the floor to you guys, Moses. If you want to open up your scroll of
I'll open up my stool.
scroll, not stool.
Oh, all right. Well, we're past that now.
Please don't open up your stool.
Too late. I've been to a lot of events, and most of them are like horror conventions. Most of these people I had at least heard about or had some idea of being either cool to talk to or, kind of a dick. There's two, actually the one I don't remember his name, but the one I do remember is, I don't remember his name, he's the guy with the dick gun in Dusk from Dawn, or Dusk Till Dawn.
Savini.
Tom Savini.
Tom
that's it.
Savini.
Oh, Tom. Oh, yeah, you did.
He is I was already kind of told from working the circuit a bit that he's a dick.
Yeah.
And I did have a chance to act wholeheartedly meet him. And granted, I went in with that in mind, and not that I was just saying hi because I didn't care about autographs. I don't care
Was
about
he
autographs.
nice to you?
No, he was a cunt. And it wasn't just.
I was hoping though.
No, it wasn't even just to me because then I got out of line because I was in line waiting and just seeing him talking to other people who are way bigger fans. Because I don't give a shit too much about this, but just these are people who paid their hard-earned fucking money just to get into fucking Cherry Hill or wherever
Is
the fuck
this
it
the
was.
same time that I'm at Danny Trejo?
No, I wasn't at that one.
Ah, he's something.
No, you texted me that. I didn't fucking.
Oh, right. I was.
Yeah, I wasn't at that because I love Danny Trejo.
met Danny
and he's a
Trejo.
fucking saint.
Yeah, he's.
I have never met him, but he's a fucking saint, and you will never say a goddamn bad thing about him.
No, I love Danny Trejo.
But like I was waiting in line just to meet Tom Savini because why not? Like I was told
He's a horror and effects
he
legend.
is like he is a fucking
Yeah.
he is a legend in that field.
Yeah.
And but I was also told by some of the people we were around, like he's a twat.
Yeah.
And not just this instance, like this venue, but the
I
past.
heard that from people. I had heard that in documentaries about like horror movies.
And like
stuff.
I was just like, let me go see, because like I figured like he's probably a shithead, but like how bad could he be? But I was just like,
And
my
here
God,
we are.
my God, like just. Because these people are coming up to you and they're paying money for your fucking autograph, which is kind of ridiculous to me to begin with. But whatever. And they're like, oh, can you sign this, this, and this? And like, I'll pay you. Like, they're like, I'll pay you that. Like, say it was $5 to get his autograph. I know it was way more than that. But like, I'll pay you $15 to sign these 3 things. He's like, you think I got time for that? You see this line? Like, why should I even fucking pay attention to you? It's like, Jesus Christ, dude. Like, the only reason you're getting paid.
Yeah. On judging people. Judging people.
And I was just
based
like,
off of these
You're in a
What a
hotel in
scumbag.
Cherry Hill, New Jersey.
like,
Chill the
it might
fuck
not have
out.
been that show, but like, that's the only one that
Still,
I know I've been to.
right,
But
right.
like, God damn. Like, why would you be such a fucking shithead to any of your fans? Because I've seen this with some wrestlers.
Yeah.
Like, well, I'll do that at the end, like my good stories. And they're kind of, wrestlers. Still. But, but like, it was just remarkable how, like, because, yeah, I get he's a name. And this was in the time when they had that show on FX of, like, it was like the tattoo show, but you were a special effects
It was
artist.
Practical effects.
Yeah, and it was just
Stuff,
like
yeah.
it was during that time.
Yeah.
And like, he wasn't a contestant ever, but like, he was a judge. And it's
yeah.
just like,
You want to justify it.
can't justify any of it.
Right, yeah, but that's just it. It said it's completely
Like
absurd.
you do, like granted, he did harder work, in my opinion, than actors. Just because of the technicality of it.
Sure, I don't know how,
But-
like,
As a producer, I agree.
But
this is one of those things where it's like, I mean, if anybody wants to comment on this, when they listen to this fucking podcast, but my general opinion about it is that if you're in some way you're acting, you're doing this thing, you're basically the exact thing that you just described. My sentiment about it is that there should be a little bit of humility there.
well, you
It
could also
shouldn't
not
care-
do these things. You don't have to go to the show. And you could be absolved from all of the fans that you have, and
Yeah.
you don't have to deal with the common people.
Yeah, you
Fine.
don't.
But you're at a fucking Cherry Hill fucking Monster Mania signing on, like, you went to it. This is what you're here for.
You
like,
don't
why the
need-
fuck are you giving anybody any shit?
You don't need to be a spectacle everywhere that you go. And when I've been, and you know that,
Especially when you are a spectacle. That's the whole reason you are there. It's because you are a spectacle.
I've been to these same shows as you, and my Danny Trejo story is the
I love it.
opposite
No,
of
yeah,
that.
well, yeah.
I can reiterate that, but yeah, no, the story that you just unfolded, that was basically that's somebody who like didn't really appreciate what they got.
The same
That's what
show.
it comes down to. Yeah.
The same show. I was talking to the guy from I don't remember his name, but the guy from Basket Case, the main actor.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Like we were next to him.
Yeah.
And I went to go get a coffee, and I started talking to the voice of the Crypt Keeper.
Right.
So I didn't even like. I don't know what he looks like, and like that, like we were just talking
No
because it
one
was
knows.
outside of his booth, and we were just bullshitting, like because he liked whatever we were selling. He's like, "Oh, he's eating fun, whatever," and he's like, "Oh, you want to get a coffee?" So me, him, and his handler, because he was, bigger star that I guess he had a handler, and so we went to go get coffee at the local casino, whatever it was.
Yeah, some spot.
And like, so the three, like me, him, and her are walking down there. Me and him are like bullshitting. She's behind us, doing, I guess, assistant stuff. And then all of a sudden she's, like, we get to the coffee place. She taps him on the shoulder. She's like, you gotta this like I guess there was something he had to do, you know.
yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, like I have to go here. It's me $50 fucking. Like we're getting coffee. And he hands me $50. He's like, you two have coffee, whatever. Like I'll meet up with you. Like hopefully we'll catch up. Like I don't know, we might have because I got drunk after that, but because I had $50.
Who's to say?
But like and then me and his handler, we chit chatted a bit, and like neither one of us had any interest in what the fuck else we were doing. Like either of us, you know. So we kind of went our separate ways, got a coffee and whatever. But he was fucking super fucking cordial, and like
Some people are.
yeah, and like at the beginning of the conversation, didn't know who the fuck he was, and like
doesn't matter.
he was like, oh, like I think he said his name, and I'm like, that kind of sounds familiar because it's also like it's something like Peter Sellers, who's RoboCop.
Yeah.
But it's something a little different. I'm like, oh, RoboCop? And he's like, no, I get that a lot. I was the voice of the crypto. I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, all right. Like, no, I used to watch you before going to school, Catholic school. And he enjoyed that. But,
Right. Yeah.
and so, but he was like, I didn't recognize him. Like, also, he was a voice actor. But
Right.
I also didn't recognize him even after he said the name. And he's like, you know, whatever.
cool.
But he was still super fucking nice.
Some people find peace just in the work that they do, and they don't need to be
Yeah.
validated nonstop, as like regular celebrities seem to need
Like it seems like Tom Savini needs to be seen
constantly.
for no
that is
reason,
his-
really,
That is his personality.
because
Like, he needs the
he's
attention.
already I think
And
he's too seen.
I think he's kind of bitter because he doesn't get as much attention as he used to.
I think he gets too much attention.
Well, I mean, I would also
But
probably say that. But
You know who doesn't get enough attention? The tire.
No
from
one
Rubber.
knows.
Oh, Rubber.
Yeah, the name of the movie is Rubber, and no one knows that movie.
I met that tire. I got an
I think
autograph.
only like 8 of us have seen this movie.
I have an autograph from that tire.
Is that movie under copyright? Because if it isn't, because it shouldn't,
Right.
we should watch it for a
we
podcast.
definitely should.
Dan, nobody cares. We can just do it.
When Christina and I first got together, I made her watch that movie, and
It's
it
amazing
really
you're still
put a delay in our relationship for a long time.
No reason.
I'm gonna go and stroke her hair. I'm so sorry.
So sorry.
I'm so glad that you're still with your husband.
She made us watch Holy Motors, and we made her watch Rubber.
Right, she loved that shit.
Yeah.
I can't wait to tell her that I've met that tire. I don't think I ever told her that story.
Probably haven't.
Shockingly, he did meet this tire.
Yeah.
That's not even a joke.
Yeah. I'll say my piece on I don't really go out for meeting celebrities. It's not really my thing. I've had a lot of friends over the years that like have gone to all these and like horror cons and stuff like that to get a signature and then get it tattooed on them and stuff like that. It's not really my game. Yeah. Hero worship, like the celebrity worship particularly, has always been a little weird to me. But like, yeah, I don't know. I was with Moses when we met Mick Foley.
That was going to be one of my better ones. And Mick Foley was a fucking peach.
Yeah.
I think you
He's
said
the
that on the
greatest
wrestling
guy.
podcast, and I had
Yeah.
nothing but nice things to say about Mick Foley as
Mick
well.
Foley's
He
fucking
paid
great.
for a picture, and they dragged me into the picture.
And it was weird because there was, I forget who, I know
Was
it
it
was
Rikishi?
Rikishi was there, and there was maybe somebody, I think there was one or two other people
Yeah,
that
yeah.
were like lower tier wrestlers. Like Rikishi's mid,
Yeah.
and he was in the back.
Oh,
Mick
you couldn't even
Foley,
get close to him if you wanted to.
you couldn't get near Rikishi or whoever the other ones were, and I can't even remember who they are. And Mick Foley right up front, like right where everybody, like in New York Comic Con,
Even
where
if you didn't
it's
pay,
super
you could
fucking
talk
packed.
to Mick Foley.
You didn't have to pay just to even just like you could just look at him or talk to him because he would just talk to kind of anyone. And he came out from behind the booth, being the pretty crippled lady. Like I've seen all of those matches, and you see all those things where like he's kind of limping. It doesn't really put into perspective how fucking crippled that man is for everything that he's done. And it's like, but it's like him like. Like it was almost like Misery. Like he is hobbling around the goddamn table to like take a picture with me and him. Like, and it's like, no, like I don't like, I'll come back there and crouch down or whatever. Like I don't care. I'm just happy to meet you. And he's just, no, come out. I'm like, all right, man. But, like, come on, take it easy. Like, God damn. Like,
Yeah, like the handler camera person. He's like, get him in the
Yeah.
picture. I didn't pay for
Because
it.
they're making that money.
Yeah.
yeah.
It was cool.
And-
It was cool.
And it was like $10.
Yeah.
If that.
Oh, yeah.
It was, like, stupid. Like, well, Rikishi and whoever the fuck was back there, like, it might have been Snitsky. Well, we have actually met Snitsky, so it wasn't
The
him, but-
only celebrity that I personally have ever met, and I think that you guys have heard of
Yeah,
this story.
it was a great story.
Danny Trejo. And I was at one of these fucking horror cons, one of the ones that you didn't show up for. And I was like I was like waiting online. And I was like, holy shit, that's Danny Trejo. And
This midget in front of me.
he's so much shorter than I thought that he would be. And I was like, just like minding my own business. And I'm like anxious. I really was just there for a coffee, but it was like awesome that he was there.
Yeah.
And like he like looked over his shoulder like a little, like he knew that I knew who he was. He's like, yeah, I'm Danny Trejo. I'm like,
Machete
no, I didn't
knows.
even notice. Like,
He heard you texting his name.
I was like trying to be cool, and we get all the way up. He does his thing, and then like he had purchased me my coffee. He was just like so fucking chill, and he just like turns around and he's like, "Hey," and just like shook my hand, just like a super,
It's like
chill
super
guy.
fucking awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Like, 'cause I didn't want to like bother him
Yeah.
for anything, But he's just like a super nice guy. He knew that I noticed who he was, and that was it. And I love that. I would never like want to put somebody out in that way, But yeah, it was just like such a delightful experience, and it kind of like hardened in my mind going back to how people's your vision of who somebody is. I didn't have a strong vision one way or the other. I thought that Danny Trejo was a great actor, but meeting him in real life and seeing like how decent of a person that he is, I was like, wow, this is a really chill guy. And it did change my perspective. I'll probably never see him again. But he's a chill guy, and he seems like the type of person who would like do something decent for another human being. Whereas I have a very low opinion of other like celebrities and actors and stuff
Most.
like that. Yeah, I think that most people, like if you ask me about like pull a name out of your hat,
Keanu Reeves.
and I would.
Yeah.
You know who was
I know.
who was very sweet that you and I briefly met, Pete? George Clinton.
Oh, he was.
Oh, that's
great,
pretty
man.
awesome.
He was chill.
Yeah.
he was a
Super
chill
chill.
guy. Yeah.
Super chill.
super nice dude. Yeah.
His handler was a little misleading to us, but that's
Yes.
okay.
Oh, we're leaving out one of the greatest fucking actors of our time, and the most super fucking nice guy ever,
I know who you're gonna bring up.
Brian O'Halloran.
Brian O'Halloran. Yep.
Mr. Dante.
Yep.
Fucking, like he still comes up to me when I'm working an event and I don't know he's gonna be there, and he'll be like, "Hey, Moses, what do you got for me?" And I'm like, "Mo, you're not even supposed to be here today."
I'm sure he never gets tired of hearing that.
Oh, and he does it for me. He does it for me. We're buds.
Yeah. No, he's another. Sweetheart.
He is. Yeah,
He's not an A-list, but he's a good guy.
He's A-list.
He's a good guy.
He's A-list.
He's A-list in my book.
I think he knows that he's not A-list.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
He's
a good
A-list
guy,
to me.
though. I
Yeah,
like
he's
him a lot.
he's so fucking great. Hopefully, maybe one day we can get him.
It might be possible. Maybe someday. Maybe someday.
Send out those flyers.
Yep.
I have two more that are super friendly. That
Okay,
it wasn't like Mick Foley was the other one that I was
yeah,
going to say,
yeah.
but like first Raven. This was at another horror convention, and we were like his table was next to ours, and I was dope sick. We were next to Raven, and like I always enjoyed Raven from his stint with the DDP and WCW, like
Yeah.
the Flock versus DDP and whatever. And I was like, he was one of my favorite wrestlers of that time. And I was like, fuck yeah. Like, let me go talk to him because I'm kind of an asshole anyway. And like, I wasn't, well, I was still
What
riding
life
that
must be
heroin
like
high.
to just quantify yourself as that, and like, Sally Forth. I'm kind of an asshole anyway.
Yeah. It typically works out. Except that one cop. He was a dick. But, so like we got to talking, and then like as the day progressed, I started getting sick and sicker and sicker. And he like he was talking to me like in the breaks, like, yeah, like, you all right? Like, do you need anything? And the same way I've been talked to the other times that I have done this, but And like it was Raven doing it. Where I'm like, I listen to every I'm at the fucking drop of every word you say. But he was like still super fucking cool.
That's cool.
And like because I wasn't in the best of fucking minds. But he also got it.
Right.
And like saw it and was still
He done it.
Yeah, Raven.
Yeah.
Raven's
you
a
know
very
about-
fucking Raven's like one of the most intelligent wrestlers. there
No, I
fucking
just
is.
mean like I think the point he's bringing up is he's been in that state of mind.
Yeah, he's
before.
either been there or he's seen it firsthand before.
Yeah, he's been in it, but like that's with other wrestlers, so
Right,
you know,
yeah,
like
right.
that's his kin.
But
where I'm
to
just
to the point
somebody,
of his character.
Yeah.
but
that
just
you as a
being
stranger,
like
yeah.
such a nice fucking person to do that, like, because why would you do that for anyone?
Yeah.
You know, let alone being the pseudo star he
Right.
is. And
He's being decent.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
but you don't like, especially with the celebrity, like
you
you
don't
expect a certain
Right.
decency, but like that was like a humanity that I wouldn't expect from anyone. You know, like just anyone, let alone star or not. Like some things is like maybe I should just stay out of this.
And who was the last one?
Daisy Fuentes. I
Daisy
might be showing my age here.
that?
She was a
don't remember Daisy
supermodel.
Fuentes?
She was a supermodel.
Oh, man.
I sat next to her as a kid on a layover from Aruba.
I need way more information.
Daisy Fuentes did. She took over House of Style for.
You're not doing anything to help me do this.
You were barely a child then.
Yeah. Flash forward to like 1992.
She was out of it then. She might. I don't know. Cindy Crawford was still around then, right? 92.
I was about that. Yeah.
So she took over for House of Style, I think, for Cindy Crawford. She was like kind of an MTV VJ, but she was on the Sports Illustrated.
That's
she
mostly
did the
how
fucking
I
thing.
remember her as like the little like VJ stuff
Yeah.
she did. Yeah.
But she was on the covers of like Sports Illustrated and whatever
I'll show you a
popular
picture
thing.
later. You'll most likely
All right.
recognize
She
her.
was,
Save that to my phone.
Yeah.
and like we got bumped up to first class because of whatever flights, you know. So I
I
got.
still carry that fantasy. It'll never happen.
It only happened that one time, and I've been on like a lot of goddamn flights. It's only happened once, and this was the time. And I didn't even realize who it was. My cousin came running up behind me. He's like, "You know who you're sitting next to?" I'm like, because she was just like dressed regular, like
Right.
sweatpants.
She doesn't
and
have the
whatever.
lights and the makeup and the glam
Yeah.
on and stuff like that. You know.
And he was like, "That's Daisy Fuentes," and then I'm just like, "Cool."
Is that your cousin? Though?
Who? Daisy?
Well, you said cousin. So.
My cousin came up. Well, he came running up from Coach, and then they sent him back.
Listen, I'm just saying it's Pornhub has put weird fellas.
Came running up from D-Deck.
Oh, this is before Pornhub,
Oh,
so it couldn't have happened. But so he was
any
just,
moment, Dan, you could maybe.
he was just like, you know who you're like, you know who that is? I'm like, no, he's like, it's Daisy Fuentes. And then they escorted him back, and I'm like, huh, Daisy Fuentes. And then the only thing in my mind is Kathy Ireland, because it was the time of the year. It was the time, you know, it was the time.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh.
Kathy Ireland is so funny, that reference, because for me that brings back dial-up internet and like trying to bring up pictures of Kathy Ireland where they had to interlace for like
I've been.
5 minutes.
She was one of the
I've
ones
been down
that.
that rabbit
Oh,
hole.
it was Sunny that kind of broke the internet. For
Yes,
that,
yeah.
Oh,
but like then like I had like, oh, can I have your autograph? And like, cause like I'm
How old were you?
10 to 12 years old. Like I could, if I even had balls at the time.
Right.
So I like, and my cousin was older, like he was
Gotcha,
teenager, like early teens. So no wonder he was so about it, and no wonder I had no idea who the fuck she was. Like whatever. But she was super fucking nice. Like, cause I asked her, and it might be because I was so young that why would she be a cunt? You know, where she might be that for if I was a grown
pieces
adult.
together, dude.
But she was super nice. I got like 4 or 5 autographs from her. Made out to different people.
I just had a memory that hit me. And I'll keep it real quick because it's about a guy whose name I don't even remember. But I was going down to the camping trip with a bunch of guys at Point Lookout in Maryland. And I think we stopped at the Maryland House, which is on 95. It's like a big rest area. And this guy forced his autograph and pictures on all of us. We were Boy Scouts. He, like I said, I don't remember his name. He did drag racing on motorcycles.
I got nothing.
No one does. No one would.
Vanilla
But
Ice?
he was like such like that forceful. He wasn't charismatic. He was forced charisma, if you know what I mean. Where he's like, oh, I'm the most famous, whatever, speed bike motor. And he made us all take pictures that he signed. And I somehow held on to that for like 20 fucking years.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. In fact, it might still be in my parents' attic.
Burn that shit.
My Daisy Fuentes autograph that I used to have it like on a mirror in my bedroom, but because it was on a piece of paper, it wasn't like it was. I just put it in the little slot so it would fall to the ground, and my grandmother threw it out.
Nice.
Because she also threw out money because it was on the ground, so it must be trash.
This is why you Italians are poor.
That's why those Italians are poor.
Be careful about your heroes, folks.
Yeah, be careful about your heroes. I will. Since I work in the industry, I won't cheat too much. I have met. I'll cheat for this one story. So I used to work at NHL.com. I've said this on the podcast already. Shared a studio with Major League Baseball. I would use the gym there. And there was one time I was doing like my own baby of a workout where it was just like, all right, it's like burpees, but there's pull-ups involved too. And one of the guys that was working out there like pulled me aside and it's like, hey man, what kind of workout is that? It's like, oh, it's like a burpee, but it's a pull-up. And it's like, oh, that's really cool. Like, and I started asking me questions. Did not realize it was Carlos Pena.
Oh,
who was an MLB All-Star.
Yeah.
So I was like, wait, my workout was just complimented by a professional athlete.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's a cool story.
Yeah.
Also, a funnier one that's it's not funnier, but another one because
It's quite sad.
It's quick. I used to cover the Flyers for a blog, and I remember I had press access to like their rookie training or whatever. So I was there, and I was like walking by myself, and all of a sudden, their play-by-play commentator Jim Jackson sped walked up to talk to me. He just was just like, yeah, I think the goaltending looks really good. I was just like. And then I was kind of like, holy shit, this Jim Jackson. Holy shit, don't say anything stupid. This man could sink you.
That's the perfect moment for you to look at him and be like, oh my God, your eyes are just immaculate.
Yeah, that would be the last thing that I would want to say to this man.
I'm just saying.
That reminds me of it's not my story.
If you ever want to tag me in.
My father, I forgot about this. He met Joe Torre at Newark at JFK.
Okay.
Like we were going on a flight, and my father never followed sports at all. So he went to go take a piss, and the way my uncle and my father would talk was just lines from pretty much Goodfellas or Godfather, but pretty much like any Italian mafia movie.
Right.
So the two of them are like in the bathroom doing that. And then they're coming out still doing it. And my uncle, no sport, like he's a sports head. And Joe Torre comes out behind them, like filling in whatever the fuck they were saying. And like my father's like, oh, look at this guy. And my uncle is just like, jaw on the ground, like, oh my God, it's fucking Joe Torre. And my father, no clue, not a care in the fucking world, because who gives a shit about Joe Torre? Because that's just another guy, isn't it?
Yeah.
But in Joe Torre, just like kind of played along. Like I think he signed something for my uncle because my father didn't give a shit. Like why are you getting something signed by this Jamon?
Speaking of meeting somebody at the airport, we'll wrap with this.
Sure.
I was traveling back to New Jersey from Nashville, and I had just gone to see this game with my brother. It was a Rangers Predators game. At the airport was their commentator, Sam Rosen. I did not recognize him because I was like, is that Sam Rosen or am I just tired?
Right.
And then at one point, I'm like, it's definitely Sam Rosen. And, I was never going to say anything to this man. I was just like, yep, it's just Sam Rosen. I'll just leave him be. I'm sure he gets harangued wherever he goes and all that stuff. And at one point, when we got back to New Jersey, we had to go through baggage collect, and I got my bag was landed right where he was, and I got mine before him. So he was probably like first class, like, where the fuck is my bag? And so I grabbed my bag. He looks at me. I look at him, and I just give him a nod and just walk away.
I wish you just like winked at him and just like, too bad.
I feel like the nod was enough.
The nod was enough.
I have one more thing, but we could say that for the wrap up, like
All
the afterplay.
Okay. But you know what is better than a nod? Subscribing to this podcast.
Absolutely.
You can also leave us a 5-star review if you're listening to this on Spotify and all those other podcatchers. Also, I want to encourage you to leave a comment, give us a like, and if you're not subscribed on YouTube or Rumble, you should also do that. So, for Justin, Pedro, Moses, I'm Dan, and until next time, yeah, I got complimented by a professional athlete, guys. Like my workout. Woo!
Cheers,
Love it.
fuckers.